It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Brr, it's freezing in here. I don't have much heat in this room, but thank God for the lights. It generates a little bit of heat. It's like 7 degrees right here in New York. I am Don Tony. I got my Nespresso ready to go. Also got a little Sprite Zero if I'm still parched. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday. I know our live friends will be diminished because of the game. I know so many of you out there just want to see Bad Bunny's performance. Hey, look, before we get political here, I've said it before. I don't have any issue with him playing at the Super Bowl. I am not going to watch it. I have a feeling of where it's going to go. It is what it is. I mean, there's been a lot of controversial shit that has happened, especially with ICE. I've made my views on both sides of the aisle, and, it is what it is. I mean, listen, before there was even controversy with ICE, Bad Bunny is like the biggest grossing person, in year. I had no idea who Bad Bunny was originally. When I started dating my wife 14 years ago, her family is part Ecuadorian, and I know they would listen to a lot of Spanish music, and Bad Bunny would pop up on the thing, but I never really paid much attention until he got involved in wrestling. And then I was like, oh my God, this guy, it's insane, the followers that he has. And it's good, fine. So I think he would have performed no matter what. I will say this, and I was joking with Joey 924 yesterday, news on that in a second. I was laughing at all of the morons the past week that were arguing with Puerto Ricans and saying, why don't you go back to your country, or Bad Bunny should go back to his president and complain. And they have no idea that Puerto Rico is the United States. Unbelievable. Listen, I know the Seahawks are taking on the Patriots as we speak. I said last week, I believe it's going to be a blowout. I believe the Patriots are going to win by at least 17. We'll see what happens. I don't know if the game will be over before this show is over. Obviously, we're not going to spend a crazy amount of time tonight. We got a loaded show planned for tomorrow and Tuesday. This will drop. For anybody that knows who Joey 924 is, the show is in the books. Before I even say the details, a lot of you obviously were big supporters of the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show, and it breaks my heart that we'll never be able to do a new episode again unless I use AI, which I would never do that to Kev. I don't know if I would mind if people use me as AI after I'm gone, but, there'll never be a new episode, obviously. Thank God that we have, thousands of episodes recorded that can never be erased from history. And we could still celebrate, the shows that we have done before. But, even though people say that yours truly and Kev were the OGs of wrestling podcasting, no bullshit. Joey 924, somebody by the name of Black Moses and Smoked Out were also OGs. They were doing the show with us before the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show ever started. We were doing the Minority Report as early as 2002. And it was 2003 that we came up with the, actually, look, I came up with the idea because I was the one who recorded. I was the one who did all the behind the scenes stuff. But we came up with the idea in 2003. Why don't we put our shows online so everybody could listen, not just through the local hotline? And that's what we would do. We would record the hotline and put it on the net, you know, and did the best that we could. And we started doing live streaming in 2003 through Fan Talk Live. And I had not spoken with Joey in 18 years. We had a crazy fallout 18 years ago. Bitter hatred. I mean, there was a lot of animosity, and I honestly thought we would never talk ever again. But, you know, listen, as you get older and you see your friends passing away and you see, you know, life is precious, you start thinking, hey, why the hate? And Joey reached out to me about a month and a half ago, and we talked, and we said, you know what? Let's do a show again for one night only. And last night, we planned on doing 90 minutes. And the only way that not only I could do it, but the Minority Report and even the DTKC show goes, we did 4 hours. 4 hours. It is recorded. It will be online for everyone Tuesday, 4 hours. And we talked wrestling. We talked a little bit about ice. We talked a little bit about politics. We talked Vince McMahon, AEW, because AEW didn't even exist. My God, we were bringing up yesterday, Leon Slater wasn't even born yet when we were doing shows. I mean, Roman Reigns didn't even start wrestling yet. Seth Rollins wasn't even in WWE. I don't even know if Seth Rollins started. I mean, it's insane. Drew McIntyre had just started in the WWE. It's amazing how much things change. You will be shocked at some of Joey's viewpoints. Big supporter of AEW. Agreed with Kevin Castle that John Cena is a fraud. We had some very interesting discussions yesterday. But what I wanted to do at the beginning, if you don't mind, we're going to do a 2-hour show probably tonight. If you allow me 5 minutes to just give you an idea of what we used to do over 20 years ago online. I want you to hear the first 5 minutes of an episode we did 20 years ago. 20 years ago, this is an example of what we would do. And you'll hear an old school intro. This is us 20 years ago. And T4P, I will definitely get into your comment in a few moments. I will tell you my thoughts on how he sounds, you know, because when we stopped doing the shows together, he was like 29. Now he's going to be 48. So, yeah, but here's a sample.
Hi, everybody. It's JR, Jim Ross in the Blue Cross Arena here in Rochester, New York. And, believe it or not, there's a real good barbecue place here called Dinosaur Barbecue. Just thought I'd throw that in because, as you all know by looking, I like to eat, and barbecue is one of my favorite things. It's the other food group. In any event, it's going to be an interesting night, I think, because not only will we see DX officially here from the beginning of the night. I don't know exactly what's going on, but as you all know by looking, I like to eat, and barbecue is one of my favorite things. It's the other food group. HBK and Triple H. And, believe it or not, there's a real good barbecue place here called Dinosaur Barbecue. Just thought I'd throw that in because Dinosaur Barbecue. And I have been virtually inseparable today. And so that means I like to eat. So you know all hell is likely and probably will break loose. I'm looking forward to the Ric Flair Edge match. It'll be interesting to see if Flair has any rust on him since being away. My experience in marriage has not been that successful, much like the Natchez. Certainly not knocking the effort of anybody involved in it, but sometimes you hit a home run and sometimes you hit a long foul ball. That was a long foul ball. I don't know what the story is there. You can almost sense, sometimes you see things on TV and you wonder how true they are. So there's a lot of unique elements, a lot of combustible elements But generally speaking, if you just look at your calendar, from the beginning of the night, I like to eat, and barbecue's one of my favorite things. It's a food group.
I don't know. For some reason, my editing was a little bit off. I think I was sort of like...
The other thing I wanted to say about the Sci-Fi Network. Now, if you really think about this logically, if you watch other cable channels like I do on occasion when my wife's not having sex, what happens is, why all of a sudden is a wrestling show on Sci-Fi have to necessarily be a science fiction thing?
Yeah, that's
MTV,
true.
No, but listen, MTV is supposed to be music television. And what do you see on MTV? You see fucking Punk'd. You see fucking Yo Mama. What the fuck does that have to do with music? I don't know, but you have to ask MTV. So, necessarily, they don't really have to have a science fiction. I'm not blaming the WWE, but the fact that they're on the Sci-Fi and it has to be about science fiction is the most retarded thing I've ever seen. Why can't they have something different in this era? We already know that MTV's lost the music edge.
Even fucking Cartoon Network. Not everything on Cartoon Network is even cartoons anymore.
Yes, now they're playing Saved by the Bell, and
they were showing Saved by the Bell a few months ago.
Yes,
they were showing like
Adult
Batman
Swim.
the movie and
Adult
stuff like
Swim
that.
is on there now, and you know what? The same thing with VH1. VH1 was another music-driven channel, and VH1 has transformed into actually my favorite channel.
And just because Cheers is on Nickelodeon doesn't mean somebody from Cheers cast has to be named Nick.
Yeah.
You know?
And here's another one, and you're forgetting the most important one out of all. Passionate people, passionate. There are actually white people on the Black Entertainment Channel.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he sells barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
No, I swear to God, it's those infomercials.
Speaking of that, you got infomercials on Sci-Fi Network at 1 a.m. How come those infomercials, they don't have anything science fiction? They have somebody selling real estate. What are they doing? Selling haunted houses?
UPN. That's a good one. UPN 9 is not a sports channel, but they have the Yankees every Friday night.
Yeah, and now it's advertised here in New York. My UPN. If that's my UPN, fucking suck it.
Relax. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Breathe in. Breathe out. Relax. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let all your stress. Fuck this shit. It's time for the Minority Report. That's right, kids. It's Monday. Time for the Minority Report. Your source for all the current wrestling news, views, rumors, and opinions from WWE, TNA, ECW, and the Indie scene. With your hosts, Don, the Funker, the Blasey.
In Puerto Rico, I would be like, hey, Chico, who in Puerto Rico would you wrestle? Would you like Carlos Colon?
Kevin Castle.
Does anybody have Kurt where he wants to be buried?
Joey 924.
I'm sorry, I'm not gay, but when Lance Storm was wrestling in the WWE, how can you not notice that? I don't know if he stuffed it, but damn.
Mo Black.
Man, tomorrow morning I'm going to have my dick in your sister's butt. You can't do anything about it. and I'm going to give it herpes.
And Smoked Out.
You broke this.
Every week, only at wrestling-news.com. Listen, or we're going to come to your house and kill you.
That's what we were doing. That's what it was like to podcast over 20 years ago online. So, it's nice that we did an episode together. It'll drop Tuesday. He does sound almost the same. He sounds a little, what's interesting? I called him through his cell, through his smartphone. So his connection is a smartphone. And when we used to do the Minority Report, he was through a cordless phone. So I actually like that we did not connect on Discord yesterday, because I think his voice would have sounded even more different. So once we once we started talking, it was like riding a bike, man. It was as if we never stopped doing shows. 4 hours yesterday, and I promise you will enjoy it tremendously. So, yeah, it'll be a fun drop Tuesday, and it'll be available for everybody. So, and yeah, it's you know, I don't want to give too much away, but you know, obviously we know what happened with Kev, but you know, Smoked Out apparently is doing okay. Black Moses is doing okay, even though we've lost touch with them as well. But yeah, you'll check that out on Tuesday. So I want to thank you all, especially those that were around with us from back then. It's definitely a trip to memory lane, and how much wrestling has changed since then. So it's going to be a fun ride when you check it out. And who knows? Maybe it'll drop again. Maybe we'll do another episode right before WrestleMania. You know, I invited him to come up right before Mania, but that obviously will depend on all of you and what the feedback is like. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, we got a show to do. I apparently it's halftime already, so that means Bad Bunny's about to perform, right? So I saw somebody posted a super chat right before we went live about Bad Bunny. I really don't want to open up talking about Bad Bunny. I want to talk about wrestling. And you know, listen, what was the biggest story this week? You know, I know a lot of you out there are a little bit down that Big E retired. I'm not saying this to be a dick, but Big E, we knew he was retired. You know, obviously, we didn't want to hear the R word out of his mouth, you know, but we know the severity of his injury. You know, I know we hold out hope that one day he will do it again. The problem is that, you know, what you got to understand is that Big E had an injury that could have killed him, that could have, you know, just killed him. I mean, there's no other way to put it. You look at what happened with his situation, and you say to yourself, wow, even if he recovers, you know, that mental concern that, oh my God, if I fall the wrong way again, and listen, it's a big difference if you're a high flyer and a luchador, all right? When you're that much mass and that thick, and that weight comes crashing down on your neck, you know, it's, God forbid, something else happens. And it doesn't even have to be the way he fell. I just think his quality of life right now is very good. He found love, and is he married yet to Miriam's sister? But he found love, and he's still doing, you know, things. And I heard that he's expanding into, you know, beyond just WWE. So, of course, we miss him. And we would love to one day see him back doing what he's doing. But the fact of the matter is, you know, he's been retired. You know, there's no other way to put it. It's just that we heard it come out of his mouth. And I personally think that it was good for him to say it, because now there is a period at that sentence. And, you know, listen, it sucks that that's how his career had to end, but it also reminds you that, you know, that could happen to anyone, maybe not to that severity, but look at Buddy Matthews. You know, we were talking about that very recently. Look at Buddy Matthews, an ankle injury, you know, and he's still, I mean, hopefully he's close to a return, but we haven't heard anything. Bianca Belair, you know, we believe that she's close to a return, but look how long she's out because of an injury to a broken bone in a hand. You know, you look at some of the older wrestlers out there, you know, what Roman Reigns went through with leukemia. You know, there was one point that a lot of people felt that CM Punk was damaged goods. You know, came back, got injured multiple times, and he's one substantial injury away from retiring. You look at AEW, Kenny Omega has said it. You know, you just see how wrestling is. Kevin Owens going through something. The wrestling career, we always hope that someone will have a long 20-year career in wrestling, but it's not guaranteed. And for Big E to do that, I think it's closure for him, obviously. So, it is what it is. Kevin Owens going to be on the next season of LFG. If it hasn't even, it might have already started. I don't watch it, but he's on there with Natty. They're replacing Undertaker and Michelle McCool this season. Undertaker is busy with AAA, if you haven't noticed. But, he's coming along. I mean, one thing about Kevin Owens is that his injury was not the severity of what happened with Big E, obviously. Neck surgery is neck surgery, though. And, even if he does have a full recovery, let me put it like this. Big E had no neck problems when he got injured. Kevin Owens didn't have a neck issue before it got injured. So you can't just look at somebody returning and say, oh, well, they're fully healed, so they'll be fine. Well, most people were fully healed before they had the injuries that they had. So, yeah. Yeah, you want to know something? Thunder, he says Michelle McCool as the next Queen Ambassador for AAA. I will prepare everyone for this. I'm not distancing myself with Joey because I agree with him on some points, but he went balls hard on Michelle McCool. He is not a fan of Michelle McCool. And, nepotism, I mean, the way he feels that if Michelle McCool wasn't married to The Undertaker, she'd not be in the Hall of Fame. She'd not be on LFG. She'd not be doing a podcast. She wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. And, I don't fault her to an extent. I blame it on Undertaker, because Undertaker's the one that, no, honey, babe, come on with me. What, babe, why not? So I blame it on Undertaker more than anything else. Doesn't mean that I hate Michelle McCool. There's no hatred here. He doesn't hate Michelle McCool, but she obviously is getting what she's getting because she's married to The Undertaker. So, but yeah, it's funny you bring up Michelle McCool because we did have an interesting convo about Michelle McCool on the show that we did yesterday. So what am I drinking? I am having a half calf Nespresso, half the caffeine because I want to get myself some sleep tonight, and I got a Sprite Zero on the horizon, so that's what I'll be drinking tonight. Few of you I see having some conversing about Royce Keys, and I couldn't resist. I mean, listen, I admit it. I say it publicly. I'm one of the few people out there that supports both Jim Cornette and Vince Russo, that supports Dave Meltzer and the opposite side, that supports Fightful and, the opposite side. And I still support Meltzer. I believe it or not, I got emailed to me a couple of days ago, my last chance to put in a ballot for this year's Observer Awards. And I don't usually do it because it's not multiple choice. It's fill in the blank. And, I'm never one of those that wants to be a dick and just, fill in bullshit names, for my entry. So I just don't even bother returning it. But since I am a paying customer, unlike what Triple H told you with his interview with Peter Rosenberg, never allow Triple H, AEW, WWE wrestlers, podcast. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you don't have a right to complain or criticize, especially if you're a paying customer. I brought up the comparison to Yelp. You go on a Yelp food review for a restaurant. Somebody might write one simple sentence, the food was great, or the food sucks. There might be someone else. Look at an Amazon review. You look at someone and they'll give you 95 paragraphs telling you why something is great or something is terrible. Whether you give one sentence or one book filled of a review, that is your right as a paying customer. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you don't have that right. Well, I'm a paying customer, and I see what Dave Meltzer does, And, like I laugh at it now because it's so pathetically sad. The funniest one that I read today is about Grayson Waller. Did you guys see the Wrestling Newswire talking about the latest update on Bron Breakker's mystery attacker? Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole and checked out a bunch of news sites today, and what are they all saying? That Dave Meltzer in his newsletter says that the word is growing that the person who attacked Bron Breakker at the Royal Rumble was Grayson Waller. Now, what does that mean, word is growing? What does that mean? You got to really pay close attention to words because that could have absolutely nothing to do with people behind the scenes at WWE. But not only that, his reasoning for it, Grayson Waller was not on the Royal Rumble and was seen earlier. And then mentions the obvious common sense that Seth Rollins injured his shoulder. And Seth Rollins, could still do a curb stomp with a bad shoulder. But after you're reading it, you're like, what the fuck did I just read? I read nothing. So now we have this, and I printed it because I wanted to read it word for word. And if you look very closely at my thumbnail, Mr. Keys is not holding the Book of Hobbes. I have renamed it Meltzer's Book of Bullshit. And once again, he is using, now Dave Meltzer is using Steiner math. Did you hear what he said now? He says that the AEW offer was much higher than he expected. It would have been a number that he would have believed have been higher than anybody but Chris Jericho and what he earned in his first year in 2019. So it's very high, but not as high, but very close to what Chris Jericho made and in line to what Bryan Danielson got to jump from WWE to AEW, but slightly less in line. This is fucking Steiner math. Then he says it would be more than guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn made 4 years ago, less than what they're making now, and in the range of what a guy on the level of Seth Rollins made at the same time and nearly triple of what. This is fucking Steiner math. He has no idea. And he even finishes up by saying that Tony Khan was blindsided by Hobbs' exit because the quick formation of Jet Speed and Hangman Page winning the trios titles. In other words, he's watching the fucking TV product like you and I and coming to conclusions and having it written in a fucking newsletter. If you want to be an opinion show, if you want to be an opinion newsletter, then fucking use the letters IMO at the beginning of what you say. That's not fucking news. There's nothing newsworthy by that. Yeah. I get to throw it again. This is nonsense. Nobody knows what AEW offered Hobbs. Let me put it this way. If Meltzer says he knows what AEW offered Hobbs, which was close to what Jericho was making in 2019, but not necessarily as much, and what Bryan Danielson got offered several years ago, but it's in line of what Zayn and Owens were making 4 years ago compared to now, then where does Moxley fit on this pay scale? Where does Ospreay fit in his pay scale? I mean, can we be honest here? AEW has never substantially pushed Hobbs the way that they should have. And if Hobbs was being offered back in 2019, when he had tiny afro and no facial hair and was smaller and had no character, no personality, no one knew who he was, if they truly thought that they had their Black Lesnar, then by now he would have been world heavyweight champion 10 times. You're going to pay someone that kind of money and then have the nerve to say, well, he went to AEW to bet on himself. And when I read that, I was like, do you mean bet as in gambling or do you mean bet as in black entertainment television? Like bet on yourself? Who does that? You know why he said that? Because of Stephanie Vaquer. Remember Stephanie Vicaire, when she first came to WWE, she did that first interview with the Spanish channel, and she was talking in Spanish, and she said that AEW offered her more money, but Shawn Michaels, WWE offered her less, and then Shawn Michaels called her and talked about her future. Bet on yourself. She actually used the words, bet on yourself. That's where he's getting that from. Because Stephanie Vicaire made that remark not too long ago that she decided to bet on herself in WWE and take less money. Now, because of that, everybody believes the same. Jade Cargill took less money, as far as people perceive, to go to WWE and bet on herself that she would ultimately be a bigger superstar, paid more, and obviously have a bigger history. Legacy, as some people like to use. Legacy, like what Ricochet said. So listen, at the end of the day, use common sense, my friends. The only people that truly know what Hobbs was offered by AEW is Tony Khan, Hobbs, if he has an attorney, Hobbs' family, and if Hobbs told his close friends, which people normally don't do. In wrestling, you don't normally say to say, hey, what'd you get? Hey, what'd they offer you? Hey, what'd this? No. Nobody fucking does that. Nobody knows. To this day, nobody even knows what the fucking TV deal price even was. The only reason why it got away for so long is because enough wrestling news sites said the same number, so now people believe it to be fact. Even AI thinks that's a real number until you challenge AI. Then it comes back to you and says, well, we really don't know. It's based on, wrestling news sites. The business world never made it public. So please use common sense with shit like this. You don't know what Hobbs was offered. You don't know what Vicaire was offered in AEW. You don't know what WWE offered fucking Jade Cargill or AEW. And, it's sad that this has to even be a discussion. It is, but it's once again the book of bullshit. That's what we have to call it from now on. It's the book of bullshit. So, we talked about Bret Hart yesterday too. We talked about a lot of stuff yesterday. 4 hours, believe me, you talk about a lot of stuff. And you know what the most amazing thing about yesterday's discussion was? We didn't prepare. We had nothing. We literally, right before, like a half hour before we went live, Joey's like, what do you how long you want to go? You think it'll be good? I said, well, how's about we go like 90 minutes, just like a brief introduction, and if it goes good, maybe we'll go a little longer. And I'm like, listen, back in the day, we didn't prepare. We knew the topics we wanted to get into, but we didn't prepare. Wherever the convo went, it went. And last night was once again the same thing. So, what else you guys want to get into? Actually, you know what? Let's get right into questions, right? That's what we usually do on Sundays. Before we hit the chat room, got a couple of super shout outs that we must acknowledge. Police Squad, thank you, Police Squad. He says, what's your reaction to Jeff Hardy's comment that he decided to leave AEW for TNA after watching a Will Ospreay match? And how political do I think Bad Bunny will get at the Super Bowl? As far as Bad Bunny goes, listen, I don't know if everybody live in the chat, if you watched Bad Bunny's performance, I would think it's probably over by now, or it's going on as we speak. The only thing that I could possibly see is if you're going to do visuals, you might have people wearing shirts that might say something derogatory about ICE. Like you might even have people cosplaying, trying to dress as if they're ICE and, maybe, getting their ass kicked or, taking advantage of people performing. I don't think it's going to be as controversial as people think. Because visual, if Bad Bunny was smart, you don't want to outrage, a large part of the country that does want illegal immigration to get controlled, whether you support ICE or not. There's a lot of things about ICE I don't like. I'm not trying to get into this. I think Bad Bunny, by doing less controversial, will make more of a statement because people are looking for a reason to shit on him, for a reason to shit on others, and leave the wacky to the wacky. I think Bad Bunny has a lot of pride, for his heritage. I think he has a lot of pride for Puerto Rico. I think he has a lot of pride for those who are literally having sleepless nights, and the only crime they've ever committed was coming into the country illegally. Again, I get why ICE does what they do, but obviously as an overreach, there's problems on both sides. And you don't justify bad behavior with bad behavior. It's something my dad taught me when I was a kid. My dad was like, if your friends act retarded, you're going to be a retard. If your friends are criminals, you're going to turn into a criminal. Don't justify someone else's bad behavior with bad behavior yourself. I think my gut feeling is that Bad Bunny is not going to do anything crazy. The less political he is, the more over it'll be, and the more powerful his statement will be. Sometimes the best words you say are the words you don't say. Well, just like CM Punk, we actually had a pretty interesting convo yesterday about CM Punk taking a shot at Hulk Hogan at the Royal Rumble weekend. A lot of you saw that when Big E was bringing up Hogan. And, look, CM Punk has never been a Hogan fan. I've done crazy research, and I found old interviews of CM Punk never praising Hogan. Big-time Piper fan growing up, but not Hogan. But sometimes it's best to keep quiet. And, what he said at the Royal Rumble weekend, even though it's his opinion, I think he should have just shut up. So, I think sometimes you make more of a statement by saying nothing, so. But as far as Jeff Hardy's comment goes, I interpret it as a compliment to Will Ospreay and as a compliment to that roster because, I think a lot of people did not hear what Jeff Hardy said. They're just reading text. I actually watched what Jeff Hardy said. I heard it with my ears. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, Jeff Hardy was on a podcast over the weekend and talked about when Matt Hardy had left AEW and Jeff was still there and Jeff's contract had come to a close. And Jeff, the idea was, does he have one last big singles run? And was contemplating a singles run in AEW. And then he watched Will Ospreay up close and personal and saw the level of, talent and age and, Jeff Hardy's current career flashed before his eyes. And Jeff was like, I can't do anymore what these guys are doing. And I interpreted Jeff was like, you know what? Let me go to TNA. Let me tag with my brother. Let me do enough, but not over the top and embarrass myself. We talked about the Bellas yesterday. And, I thought Brie Bella coming back now, if she was coming back at all, is the best thing that could have happened for herself and for Nikki Bella. And me. Me praising Nikki Bella is like a Democrat going to a Trump rally. All right, I'm not a fan of Nikki Bella at all. Never liked her. She never did anything to me personally, but I said this yesterday and I'll say it here. Brie Bella, if you thought, put it this way, when you think of the Bellas as a team, Nikki Bella was the one that had more talent in the ring. I think a lot of you will agree. Not trying to throw shade on Brie, but Nikki had a little bit more ability. So you bring Brie back. You want a singles run for Brie? A singles run for Brie? So the idea is, you know what? You put them both together. This way they just do enough. And now Brie only has to work half as much because she's got her sister on the opposite side of the ring. You take her sister being there and the professionals that have been in WWE, and they will help. They will help along the way. And that's why it's probably best for both of them. But for Jeff could still go on a top level. But once he saw Will Ospreay up close and personal, I think even Dolph Ziggler said that a while back. when you see some of the guys and the way they perform today, that is a bar set extremely high. And listen, I know there's going to be morons that are going to trash Jeff Hardy for what he said. Like they're going to interpret it when Jeff saw Will Ospreay, oh, I'm fucking out of here. Oh, I'm out of here. That's not what he did. I think he was paying big time compliment for Will Ospreay's ability. So that was my take on it. It was nothing negative about what Jeff Hardy said. Jeff Hardy, had the realization that, I'm not on that level. Let me be a tag partner and close out my career with my brother. That's how I interpret it. So, shout out to Santo, catching the show live for a change. Hey, I'm glad. A lot of people were unsure if I was going to do a show Super Bowl Sunday, but I know not everybody is a football fan, or even if you are, maybe you're not a big fan of the Seahawks and the Patriots. So you're watching in the background and you're hearing us talk a little bit about wrestling and shit. So yeah, why wouldn't I do one? But I'm glad you're here live. And for everyone who is here live, and shout out to Austin Nance, who's holding down the ship tonight. Much love to you. And, everybody, whether you're live or you're on the archive, I thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. So I'm glad you're enjoying the show and you're here live. And you'll see in the chat, there's always great vibes. Always great vibes in the chat. Synapse 2K, thank you very much, my friend, for the 20 spot. He's looking forward to the Forbidden Door with Joey. Can't wait to hear Joey again. I'm telling you, he sounds pretty close to how he did before. He's older, obviously, but I'm telling you, the first 30 minutes, I think we were kind of like trying to feel each other out. Not that there was anything wrong, but, we hadn't done a show together in over 18 years. But I could tell yesterday, once we hit around 30 minutes, especially when we got into Stephanie Vicare's ass, Lola Vice's ass, and the Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant lawsuit, then it suddenly went on cruise control. And trust me, there'll be enough of you out there that will find a spot. It wasn't planned. You'll find a spot where you'll hear a conversation. You'll be like, yeah, this sounds just like it was back then. And it wasn't forced. It wasn't forced. And trust me, there's no controversy about Lola Vice's ass and, or anything like that. But we just have the viewpoint that some of these women in wrestling, they have their cheeks out and the outfits that they wear. It's not like they want us to think dirty things and even Sammy Guevara level things. And yes, Sammy doesn't think that way anymore. But the idea is that some women are very proud of their bodies and they know that they're sexy and they wear outfits to enhance it without being slutty. And there is absolutely nothing wrong to commend someone for having a beautiful physique. It's how you compliment them. That's pretty much how we look at things. And it's sad. It's sad that in today's culture, if you, commend, somebody like we just did, you'll have enough people out there that will, accuse you of being disgusting and a pig and a sexist and, you're this, you're that. And, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a shame to see how delicate people have to be today. I don't like being delicate like that. I know sometimes I have no choice. I have to be very careful. Out of respect to some people. If you are friends with someone, you respect them even if they are a little bit soft. That's the way it is today. But you just it's just a shame sometimes the way things have changed. But yeah, so I promise you'll definitely enjoy it. I mean, like I said, trust me, if the show would have sucked, I would have said to Joey, maybe we should edit the show down and take some of the topics out. There's nothing that we need to remove from it. It's actually that good. And you know what's great about it? I did say this at the end, and I'll say this now, and I promise you I won't bring it up again for the rest of the show. What was so good about what we did yesterday for 4 hours is that other than WrestleMania, you could listen to this show a month from now, and nothing is outdated. You know what I mean? Like, we were talking in general about the state of wrestling and, a lot of criticism towards Triple H, and not just the usual stuff. You'll hear some things that no one else is talking about. But, the only thing is the outcome of WrestleMania. That's even if you listen to this 6 months from now, 95% of the show would not be outdated. So that was the one thing also that was so good about yesterday. It's not like, hey, what do you think is going to happen on Raw tomorrow? We didn't do any of that. So, all right. Boris says that Will Ospreay is the best wrestler in the world. Let me tell you something, man. Ospreay is in the top 5 of the most talented wrestlers in the world. And it still bugs me that even Meltzer put Billy Gunn and Will Ospreay in the same, Billy Gunn and Kyle Fletcher in the same sentence. It's so disrespectful, to just wrestling as a whole. You look at Jim Cornette, and I love tuning into Jim Cornette. There's a lot of things I disagree with, but I love tuning into his stuff. I don't listen to the political stuff. Whether I agree with him or I don't, that's not why I listen to shows. And I know that's how you feel here as well. But Jim Cornette, it's all about old school, and it's more about tradition. And a shitload of what wrestling is today, he is not a fan of. So that's not someone that I would want in my camp for a wrestling promotion, because his vision is so narrowed because of what he likes and he doesn't like. Then you look at someone who is into the comical, and the hardcore, and the brutality, and the blood and guts, and this and that. And, listen, there were points in AEW where there was blood every fucking week. And I always said this, when every show there's blood, there's no blood, because you become numb to it. And that happened with Moxley to an extent. It was almost like, a checklist. Do I have my cup on? Do I have my wrist tape? Do I have, my boots laced properly? Do I have a blade? You know what I mean? It's like, that should not have been on your checklist. And when you bleed every fucking week, it loses its luster. It loses its meaning. And then eventually the blood stopped, and it's now used in moments. But again, that mindset is very narrowed. So, I always felt that, it's like walking into a produce stand. An apple doesn't taste like an orange, and an orange doesn't taste like a pear, and a pear doesn't taste like a grapefruit. If I'm going to make pumpkin pie, I'm not going to turn around and say this is the greatest fucking pie across the board, where, it tastes totally different than apple pie, or it tastes totally different than cherry pie. They're all fruit, but that doesn't mean that they're all used for the same ingredients. And, Joey and I made the argument yesterday as to why Roman Reigns is the number one person in wrestling. He is not the greatest, most talented wrestler of today. He's not the most talented promo cutter of today. He's not the biggest box office attraction today. It is obviously a joint effort. But when you look at the top of the list, or the top 5, he is in every category. I made an outdated reference yesterday comparing him to what Ken Griffey Jr. used to be. Ken Griffey Jr. didn't have the most home runs every year, did not have the highest batting average every year, didn't have the lowest errors in the outfield every year, didn't have the highest assists every year, didn't have the most stolen bases every year. But when you looked at every category, he was near the top, sometimes a few at the top. And that's what Roman Reigns is. Roman Reigns has this, and this. Billy Gunn, when they were the New Age Outlaws, they did enough in the ring that people were not bored. They had charisma. They clicked with the fans. They had a catchphrase. That's why Matt Cardona is fucked. That's why we talked about it yesterday. Matt Cardona is fucked. Matt Cardona has no connection to the WWE universe in the sports entertainment way. Oh, he was awesome on the indies for the last 7 years or whatever it is. Of course he was. I think, of all time, it's Raven. But Matt Cardona on the indie circuit is one of the top. He's been top 5 across the board. But now you brought him to WWE, and he's got no catchphrase. He's got no gimmick. You want the fans to get into him because he worked his ass off for 5, 6, 7 years because he's married to Chelsea Green? You go out there and you look at his Titantron and it's Matt Cardona. It's a regular guy that actually could fucking wrestle great. He lost, and that's why I predict they'll either bring back woo, tease it a little bit, force a catchphrase on him, or he's out of there. Not tomorrow. You look at the Motor City Machine Guns. You know, of course they're Hall of Famers. Of course they've had illustrious careers. But you bring them into the WWE where, yeah, they have great ability, but so does everybody else. And they're not very good on the mic. And then little kids are not going to get into them because they don't wear masks. They don't have catchphrases. They're older. So it's like, oh, look, the intro, rum, 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 rum. Like, yeah, like, why would the young fans get into the Motor City Machine Guns? You know, they're top talents. They're there to enhance a lot of the younger stars and to give a little something to those that are old school. But again, to put Will Ospreay or Kyle Fletcher in the same sentence with Billy Gunn is just dopey. Because Billy Gunn was more of an entertainer. Fletcher is more of a wrestler. Fletcher is developing a personality, and Fletcher is fucking awesome in the ring, and he'll just get better. But, you know, I don't see 15,000 fans selling out an arena and having almost everybody in the crowd that buys a shirt wearing a shirt, or those who have the signs that say, I paid to see Kyle Fletcher. You know, you go, and he's one of the reasons why you go, but he's not the reason. And that's why, you know, you can't use such a broad brush. It's ridiculous. It's like comparing a pitcher stats to a batter stats. They're both awesome baseball players, but the batter can't strike anybody out, and the pitcher, you know, probably can't hit the ball all that great. Doesn't make one better than the other. So Tristan says, my honest thoughts on Snitsky licking Lita and Kane's, kicking Lita and Kane's baby in the crowd. Believe it or not, I think we have an old episode where we cover that in real action. I personally am just impressed that he was able to kick the doll as far as he could. Because it is very, very easy to flub that. How many of you out there ever kick something in your yard, or especially in your yard? You know, like there's a little like volleyball or a little ball or something, or, you know, in your house, there's a sock and you pick it up and you go to kick it and you miss it. I mean, this guy kicked it and fucking hit a field goal. Just think of how easy that could have failed. It would have looked so freaking stupid. If he would have missed it or would have kicked it into the ropes, people would not remember it to this day. He would have had to pick it up and throw it. So, and it doesn't matter that he was a former kicker. You know what I mean? Like, still, I mean, we've seen kickers miss. We've seen basketball players have air balls. It's just the fact that he was able to kick it as far as he did. You know, he made a moment. When that happened, that was a moment you were going to remember forever. Bloody Money, thank you for the update. Seahawks leading 12-0. I said that they would win by at least 17. Now, obviously, I don't think they'll win by 17 because they would have to get 5 more points, which would be a field goal and a safety, which that's probably not going to happen. So it sounds to me like they've gotten 4 field goals so far. So, yeah, so I would think maybe if they get 2 touchdowns, they'll have 26. And if the Patriots get a touchdown and a field goal and miss a 2-pointer, that would give them 11. So that would be a 17 right there. Well, we'll see. All right. And King Odd says, yes, 4 field goals. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a big follower of either team, but analyzing it, everything I read last week made me feel Seahawks are going to dominate. So far they have. Snitsky is pretty much retired. He makes appearances once in a while. He was backstage at a WWE event not too long ago. You know, guy is still a physical specimen. You know, that's someone that you probably would have thought would have done a little bit more. outside of WWE, but didn't have like that real career outside of it. It is interesting how over the years you see people leave WWE. That's it. We were talking, I don't know if it was Wednesday Night Dynamite this week or if it was Patreon Thursday, but we were bringing up, I was bringing up Cameron Grimes. We're approaching the 2-year anniversary where Cameron Grimes got cut and cried on video and said that he's going to reinvent himself and he's going to transform, and we're going to see that we're going to realize WWE made a big mistake. And here we are 2 fucking years later, and he's 2 years older. And what has Cameron Grimes done? Literally, what has he done? Do seminars for the most part? He's an indie champion for a company that does 6 shows a year. He does nothing. And it's sad. It is sad. My thoughts on Vince versus God. That was out there. It was just, wasn't that, that was when Vince was preparing. Didn't he go to church with Shane and started drinking the holy water? Oh, he did the Triple H. That's what he did. See, I don't want to start spitting in my house, but literally I do it right now. He literally took the holy water and gargled and said to Shane, he's like, Shane, look. And he spit the fucking holy water in the air. And he did it in a real church. Yeah, that's just wacky. But, you look back on it, and we've seen wackier. You look at Aaron Stevens. Remember when he was mimicking all of Miz's moves, or or somebody who wrestles the Invisible Man? Didn't Will Ospreay produce a wrestling event this weekend that teased Cena at the show, but we couldn't see Cena, and you had all the indie guys taking bumps in the ring, and no one was there. They were actually selling as if John Cena was there, but we couldn't see him. I think that happened last weekend. Eve, thank you very much. Yeah. Bloody Money says it was Eve. I was watching clips online. Funny shit. But again, you look at wrestling, there's a lot of people that would think that is tremendously stupid. But there's enough of an audience for shit like that. I remember when this is before we found out that we always knew Joey Ryan was a pig. We just didn't realize how much of a pig he was. I to this day believe that Joey Ryan did not commit any crimes. Joey Ryan reminded me of when I used to go to clubs in the 80s. I know I've brought this up before, but Joey Ryan always reminded me of when I used to go to clubs in the late 80s, early 90s. And we would go to the clubs, and I live in Howard Beach, John Gotti territory. And he used to have bars, late night bars, and even clubs not too far away. And you would walk in, and you would see all these guys that look like Jersey Shore rejects. I don't know if I have this picture still in my computer. I don't think I do. But I have an infamous photo of me standing next to my 1981 two-tone Buick Regal. And if you look at what I'm wearing, I look exactly like a Jersey Shore reject. I'm just not in shape like that. But you would see these guys acting like they were millionaires, talent agents, mafioso, and all they were just trying to do is get laid. Now imagine you meet a girl in a club and you say that, people would fall for it, that, I work for a magazine, and, why don't we hang out afterwards and, show me what you got. And you have a couple of drinks, and the girl thinks that she might actually get a photo opportunity. I mean, we've seen some Forensic File episodes like that. And then you find out that the guy, works for a fucking bodega. But he sweet-talked the girl to get pussy. Or somebody, we used to laugh about a guy that used to walk in the club and say, yeah, you want to hang out? I got a vet. It's in the shop right now. I got a vet. And so we're like, yeah, you got a vet. You got a Chevette, not a Chevy Corvette. You have a Chevette. And people would lie and say whatever you can just to get laid. Now, what happens next week? You see that girl again, and then she realizes that she was used, that you lied and manipulated and said you were a millionaire when you make $3.35 an hour. Do you call the cops? Does a girl call the cops and say, oh my God, arrest that pig? He lied to me and he manipulated me so he could get what he wanted, but he really wasn't what he said he was. No, that's called getting played. And that's what Joey Ryan was. Joey Ryan was targeting women that were sad, depressed, and many times after bad breakups. And he would say, oh my God, I'm just like you. And, it sucks. Life sucks, but, we don't have to be alone. And, it's so warming to talk to you and you're talking to me and, I'm there for you and you're there for me. And, it'll be better for us in the future. And, and then you start teasing like the physical wants, like, yeah, I miss kissing someone. And, oh, me too. He's like, you want to make out? That's what Joey Ryan used to do. He wasn't a criminal. He was a pig. He would say the right things to get women to fall for it. And then he would get what he would want. And then you realize, oh my God, he's a fucking liar. He's a pig. Is that a criminal? No, that is a scumbag. That's what it comes down to. So, I don't know if I have pictures of my LSC readily available. That's not easy to just retrieve. I mean, I do have like personal photos here online, but they're not like readily available. I don't think. Oh, you know what? I may have something here. Okay, look at this. Look at this. People get a kick. All right, here's me. Here's me in 1991. There you go. Oh my God, look at that. I had LeBron. Not a LeBron, a LeBron. Who remembers LeBron? You can look up that license plate. It doesn't come back to me. So that license plate is long gone. Yeah, that is me from 1991. That's how we would dress. We would wear the acid wash jeans, the white Playboy decks. We called them wife beater shirts. They were white tank top shirts, and you had to have jewelry. And yeah, that's how we would look. So that is yours truly back. And that's when I say Jersey Shore. That's how you looked. Now imagine having all these people in a club that look like that. Oh my God. I'll show the link in next week. My thoughts on Hangman Page and Marty Scurll issue. This is how I look at it. And I've talked about this once or twice on the other shows already. My take on Marty Scurll taking a picture with Hangman Page is this. If you're going to throw stones and you're going to criticize other people for supporting someone that doesn't have your political views, or maybe someone that has had issues in the past, make sure you look at yourself in the mirror first. That's my only take on it. I look at it like Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon, we believe that he definitely used his power to get, what he wanted from Rita Chatterton. And yeah, it could very well have been criminal. When it comes to Christy Hemme, Janelle Grant, and other women in latter years, it seems like a guy that used his power and his bank book to get what he wanted. And my point is this. When Vince was going with Janelle Grant, we don't know if Vince was a criminal or if he was a pervert. And, again, and this is something we talked about yesterday too. When you look at Janelle Grant, you look at the beauty and you look at, she looks innocent. And there's way too many OnlyFans pages and Pornhubs where someone looks like that and they're getting blown by 6 guys. All right. So, being promiscuous is not based on a 350-pound blonde Karen that lives in Texas or a chunky black woman. There's stereotypes out there like, oh God, yeah, she's a slut. There is no poster child of it. So we don't know if she was a victim or if she was played or if she just absolutely loved the attention, loved being told that she's beautiful, not having that father figure in her life, not having that significant other, someone that is paying her bills, giving her gifts, someone is telling her, I love you, baby, you are beautiful, other men attracted to you. There are a lot of women out there that absolutely love the attention of multiple guys chasing after them. I don't know what Janelle Grant is, but if Janelle Grant is that, if you're a member of Vince McMahon's family, or if you're John Cena, or if you're Undertaker, or if you're anybody else that was close with Vince, do you turn around and say, Vince, I don't want to be around you anymore. I can't talk to you. I just cannot forgive you. I have to disown you. Do family members do that? Linda, listen, I've said this for decades. I think Linda was a freak also. I don't think Linda was into that, but I think when Eric Bischoff fondled her tits, and when Linda McMahon is in the wheelchair watching Vince make out, I think with Trish or whoever it was at the time, I think she found that kinky, because there's no way I could see Linda McMahon saying, oh, that's disgusting. That's terrible. Vince, my love of my life. Why would you even do that in a fantasy? Whoa, Mr. McMahon gets his in the end. Yeah, but there's so many other ways we could do it. You're being disrespectful for me. But she's like, yeah, no, I'll do it. It's what's best for business. I think Linda was a little freaky too. I just, unless she was the absolute opposite and Vince was, it's like being married to a vegetarian and you come home every day to fruit and vegetables. And just one day you want to come home to meat. You want to come home to chicken. Yeah. Maybe that's what it was. But do you disown your father if you're Shane? Do you disown your father if you're Stephanie? I wouldn't want Vince as my father, but do you totally turn your back? My point is, I wouldn't want, if I'm Hangman Page and I had a friend that unfortunately, manipulated or had a relation with an underage person, I would want him to pay the price over it. But I also, if I cared for my friend and I loved him and he was a close friend of mine, maybe I can help him, become a better person and understand, what was wrong and root for that person to become better. I always believe, with the exception of what Benoit did and, what some people have done, the people are redeemable, and you can you can become a better person. So the idea of just canceling someone out because they did something that is offensive, I think, is a little bit extreme. If you want to cancel someone out, that is your right. I totally respect it. But in the case of Hangman Page, no, I don't want to stab my friend in the back. I don't want to turn my back on him. I don't want to disown him. There's a lot of things about Marty Scurll. I'm just ad-libbing as Hangman Page. There's a lot of things about Marty Scurll that I like about him, and he's a friend, and there's a lot of good in Marty Scurll, and I want him to be a better person, and he's my friend, and I want to support him. And he has every right to do that, but don't you dare rip someone else who wants to support someone else that, has done something that you are against, because that is called a hypocrite. And unfortunately, in this world, we are showered by hypocrites. We brought up yesterday on the History Show, Undertaker and Hulk Hogan in California, first Raw on Netflix. Sure, there was absolutely the racism part of it. That's why Hogan got booed out of the building. But when, you have Pat McAfee and others saying, well, there's a big element because of the politics, and I was helping Trump and this and that. Well, Undertaker just fucking interviewed Trump and was, like, Undertaker is a how come nobody in fucking California booed Undertaker, for his support of Trump? So it was 100% just racist reasons? No. So if you're going to be outrageously angry at Hogan for his support of Trump, but then you cheer Undertaker, you can't turn around and say, yeah, but Hogan was a racist too. You can't do that. If it outrages you that Hogan supported Trump, it should outrage you that Jerry Lawler supports Trump. that Ricky Steamboat supports Trump, that, donate money to Trump, that the cons in AEW donated to Republican campaigns, Triple H, everyone. That's why, if you notice, Chase and Rance, the guy from Florida. I have a little history with Chase and Rance. I hate him for various reasons. All right, but how many times, it hasn't happened often, but how many times in the past did you hear about an event that was being advertised or planned, and there'd be an AEW guy on there, or they'd even pose with him and say, I didn't realize he was going to be on the card. I didn't even realize he was there, or I totally didn't know about it. And they play dumb. And, the fact is that, no, they're not that dumb. They just got caught. And their way was, I didn't realize he was there, and, I will not be on that show. But if the show would have came and went, and somebody would have confronted him privately and say, why did you do that show? Chase and Rance was on it. As long as no one else complained, they'll just let it go and hope that it's never brought up. But the only reason why people take action is because I had no idea. It's ridiculous. And unfortunately, we had that recently with Gigi Dolan. I felt so bad for her about the Israel situation, but when you have the promoter say that she had no idea what was going on in the Middle East is one of the most ridiculously moronic comments that I've ever heard. You're going to a different country and you don't do a simple Google search to see, is there anything about Israel that I need to prepare myself for? Is there anything that maybe I can't dress the way I do? Maybe I need to do this? Or is there any you don't Google search it? I depend on my agent? What do you do all day? What did you do for the last 2 years? Israel never passed, you never logged online, and nobody on your social media platform, none of your friends talking about the unrest between the two countries. You never saw that. All you see is makeup. It's ridiculous to even play off that she had no idea. She was clueless. Get the fuck out of here. There's certain things you could be clueless about. That's not one of them. So, Paige supporting Skrull, I respect it. But if Paige sees someone else supporting someone who has done something that Paige is totally against, supports ICE, or this and that. Listen, I know you're going to say, well, you see, ICE killed people. Right, but maybe they're supporting a particular relative or a particular friend that works for ICE that actually is not committing any of these atrocities. Do you label everybody that way? If you're not going to label every Somali in Minnesota as a criminal, then why would you label every ICE person as a criminal? You see what I'm saying? I'm not condoning any of it. All I'm saying is you see where you get yourself in trouble very quickly. So I think Hangman Page has every right to support his friend, and hopefully his friend is a better person these days and would never even think about doing that again. Look, I've made it public. I don't hide behind it. When I was a lot younger, I stole. I stole from my family. I would go into my parents' drawer and I'd steal money out. I sold my mother's mink coat when I was 19 years old. I ended up getting kicked out of the house and I ended up joining the Navy because of it. And it straightened my ass out. I absolutely, and believe me, when I came back home after being in the Navy, at that time, my father tested me. Once in a while, I'd walk around the house, there'd be $100 bill on the floor. And I know he absolutely dropped it on the floor to see if I picked that son of a bitch up and put it in my pocket. And I would pick it up. I would either pick it up and say, Dad, you dropped this on the floor, or I would just walk by and act like I didn't see it. My father, and he's admitted it years later, that he would test me. He would purposely have like a certain amount of money in his bedroom drawer and see if, when they weren't home, if I went in the drawer and even took $1. I fucked up when I was 19. But I learned from it. And, to this day, I feel awful for what I did. But, at that time, I was young and stupid and not understand the value of money and how hard my father worked. And, I would want my family and my friends to support me to be a better person. So, okay. Look at this. Iconic says that Braun Breaker has been diagnosed with a hernia. Well, it's probably a torn hernia or a strained hernia. Here we go. Wow. If he's got a slight tear in a hernia, I think you can rehabilitate that with just rest. I've had a hernia repaired before, hiatal hernia. The thing is that he would have to be careful about lifting weights. So hopefully that is not the case. But if he has some type of a hernia, I'll tell you this much, the more I think about it, if this has been diagnosed for a few weeks now, they should have gone ahead and had Bron Breakker lay out Adam Pearce. Let him get suspended for a month. I mean, I get it. Fans will start cheering to have him back because they miss him, but that would have been the easiest way to write him off TV for a little while. Let him lay out Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce could take a bump still. Adam Pearce could sell like $1 million. They didn't do that. Instead, they're kind of like making it seem like Adam Pearce better be careful that he doesn't go over the line. So now, you can't do that. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Bron Breakker in the next week or two. If it's a strain, couple of weeks. If it's a strain. Now, you can have a mystery person keep showing up and laying out Bron Breakker. Because Bron Breakker just taking a curb stomp wouldn't really affect the hernia at all. So there's ways that you can have Bron on television and nobody really seeing that he's restricted right now because of injury. But I'll look into that. Hopefully I'll have an answer by tomorrow when I do the show, but hopefully it's nothing majorly serious. So, but thank you for that. Thank you for the super chat also. I appreciate that. Themes and things with Johnny. Much love to you, my friend. He is a channel member here on YouTube for 4 years and 1 month. It's crazy to think that we've been doing video for that long. That's crazy how many years go by this quickly. I still feel new doing video. But I thank you very much for that support, man. And happy anniversary to you. And he says, congrats to Killer Cross. So happy for him. Deserved the MLW World Championship. And he knows it was days ago, but he's very happy. We definitely talked about Cross yesterday as well. I don't mean to keep bringing up Joey, but the reason why I do is because we hadn't talked in 18 years. So Cross was not even in wrestling yet at the time. So we talked about a lot of things that weren't even in existence the last time we talked. And we didn't have a list of names. We just, wherever the conversations went, they went. And Cross was brought up yesterday. And it was pretty interesting to hear him talk about how he feels that Triple H and WWE absolutely fucked Cross in a big way. That it's just amazing how Joey thinks that Cross could have been, this generation's Jake the Snake as far as manipulator, could work, and, the way he talked and everything. And that might be a little bit of a stretch, but, he was just, fuck you, WWE, because you could see right in front of our eyes how they sabotaged him. And they did. They did. But the thing is, that is part of being in the wrestling world. Unfortunately, you're going to be victims of that. Look at Chelsea Green, man. There's been so much controversy about Chelsea Green and what Michael Hayes said on Unreal. And I'm one of the few that actually understands why Michael Hayes said that. And I think in the future, Chelsea Green will be just fine. I compared what Michael Hayes said about Chelsea Green, that it's not that she has a ceiling, but she's best used as an antagonist to get other people over, And the first person that came to mind was Roddy Piper back in the day. Roddy Piper was never world champion. Roddy Piper, we paid because we want to see him get his ass kicked. But many of us, Roddy Piper was their favorite. Wasn't my favorite. Number one on my list was Snuka, then Morocco, and then Terry Funk. But, you know, I absolutely dug Roddy Piper. But when you hear some people say Roddy Piper was my favorite growing up, oh yeah, I absolutely see why. But the thing with Chelsea Green is, the way I took it with Michael Hayes, is that Chelsea Green right now, because she's so good at being a bitch, she's so good at getting under your skin, that she maximizes her entertainment value by being almost like what The Miz used to be. Be that antagonist that you want to see get her ass kicked. Doesn't mean you don't want to see her, but you just want to see her get her ass kicked. And yes, by doing that, she gets other people over. But I do believe 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, she'll have that moment where she cuts almost like a pipe bomb, or something happens on television and she turns that page and she is no longer the antagonist that's getting other people over. She's the one that is getting elevated, and someone else is going to be the antagonist to get her over. I believe that that is Chelsea Green's future. And I got to be honest with you. You've heard me say many times on these shows that Chelsea Green's one of my favorites in WWE for a while now. And I will even say, if I'm WWE, do not change how you're using Chelsea Green right now. Because what a lot of you don't realize, and I'm not defending WWE Creative, but you just got to look at it like this. If they have a mindset about Chelsea Green, and they see that right now she's best for this, and this, and Chelsea Green don't like it. She's not 19 years old. She's not 23 years old. She's older. So, you know, you got to think about your future a little bit more, because she might be doing a spectacular job being the antagonist now, but what happens if WWE release her a year or two from now? She never got that opportunity for that next spot. But the idea is, if WWE has a mindset that this is how we see Chelsea Green right now, if online forces WWE to change it, then what happens is you're forcing WWE to start using Chelsea Green in a way that they did not envision right now. And you risk even more them fucking up, because they did not see it through. You know, some people get pushed tremendously. You know, you look at Drew McIntyre. I said on this past Monday's show that what I see in Finn Balor right now is what they were doing to Drew McIntyre about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, Drew McIntyre was working his ass off, was doing a great job, but he was working the house shows, getting jobbed out to Jey Uso over and over and over again. He would lose to Sami Zayn. He didn't lose every match, but he lost a majority of them. And people were just like, wow, you know, what the fuck are they doing with Drew? You know, he had his opportunity, you know, Clash at the Castle in 2022. He had title matches. He fought Gunther. He fought other people. But at the end of the day, 2 years ago, when he was doing what he was doing, he was just part of the show and, you know, doing what he was doing and getting a lot of losses. Then there was a corner that turned, and obviously CM Punk returning was a good part of that as well. They started to use Drew McIntyre a little bit differently, you know, taking things differently, being more serious now, you know, walks out of Busted Open, you know, Survivor Series, storms out and gets in his car, and people think that he's really fucking pissed. And meanwhile, Drew McIntyre is the master at what he's doing. Because Drew McIntyre took the advice when TKO first bought that company. If you see even one fan around, you treat it as if it is real. If there's an opportunity where one camera could be recorded, that's why that picture of him and CM Punk standing side by side before Raw, the day that Odyssey Jones got fired, you know, that was fucked up. Because that was the first time people like, hey, wait a minute. You know, like, what's going on here? Like, we know what wrestling is, but, you know, how they're standing next to each other. They're not even, like, across the ring for each other. You know, like, and Drew kind of had to do what the Iron Sheik did back in, 88, when Iron Sheik and Duggan got arrested. Not on that level, but Iron Sheik is like, my car broke down. And Mr. Duggan was driving by and gave me the ride, and fuck you, Duggan, but I needed the ride. I took it anyway. Like Drew McIntyre is on social media saying, hey, you know, I have to work. You know, it doesn't mean I have to like everybody I work with. You know, and he did a great job. He defended it and people let it go. But Drew McIntyre 2 years ago, there was a turning point. Now it feels like they're doing the exact same thing with Finn Balor. And they're obviously setting up Finn Balor to take on CM Punk in the Elimination Chamber because it's in Chicago. You're not going to have CM Punk in Chicago just to sit in the rafters. So the winner in the Elimination Chamber is going to point. And then CM Punk's like, what are you pointing for? Roman Reigns already challenged me. Like, you could have CM Punk have a match. So he's going to probably take on Finn Balor. But the thing is, it's probably going to take 2 years for Finn Balor to possibly get where Drew McIntyre is right now. And look at what they did to Drew on Monday. I know I haven't been on YouTube since last Sunday. What did they do the day after we did our last show? You got Roman Reigns and CM Punk having a spectacular confrontation on Raw. Sold me on why they should be the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania in Las Vegas. But in the process, they used, abused, and annihilated Drew McIntyre last Monday. You know, I compared it on last Monday's show that just imagine you get engaged and you go out with your friends for an engagement party and you're just sitting there and, you know, like, holy shit, I'm so happy for John. You know, he's engaged to Mary. And then somebody says, yeah, you know, John, you got a good woman there. I should know. I fucked her. And then you get your friend Roman that says, oh, yeah, I fucked her too. In fact, my cousin Jay and Jimmy fucked her also. Everybody says she's a good lay, man. You got yourself a winner. And meanwhile, when the night is over, John wants to crash into a wall. And he wants all of you standing in front of that wall. That's what Roman and CM Punk did to Drew McIntyre. Now, I blame WWE too. Because no way that WWE, even for Unreal in the summertime, Triple A, just go out there and do what you do. I did, yeah, but boss, you know, we wanted to bring up Drew, and you know, we're gonna kind of like, do whatever you want, brother. What am I impersonating now? I sound like Rikishi meets Hulk Hogan meets Vince McMahon. You know, like, do what you want. It's okay. I don't need to know. You're the best in the world. You're Roman. Like, they annihilated Drew McIntyre. And you hear, oh, Netflix edited part of what happened Monday. And I thought, okay, maybe they softened a little bit of the Drew McIntyre insults. No, they edited it out that CM Punk and Roman Reigns voiced fucking cartoons in some type of animated movie or something. Like, that's what you're concerned about? Drew cut a nice promo on SmackDown. But let's be honest, my friends. Let's be honest. If Drew McIntyre's asshole is the circumference of this, after Monday Night Raw, Drew McIntyre's asshole was the circumference of this. Roman Reigns and CM Punk just annihilated him. And that is so disrespectful. Oh my, listen, I am bought. I'm sold on CM Punk and Roman Reigns for night 2 of WrestleMania. But at the same time, I was like, wow, you know, that is fucked up how you treated Drew on Monday. I don't care. I know what wrestling is, and I know, you know, there's not that hatred, but still, man, the perception, oh my God, they damaged. Brother. Yeah, didn't Rikishi, now, who did Rikishi claim to help son? Oh, I know what it was. Didn't he say with Hobbs, brother, you need to go to WWE, brother? There's something floating around that Rikishi gave advice to someone. And, you know, in my Rikishi voice, I was just picturing that conversation. I think it was Hobbs. I think it was Rikishi that saw Hobbs or something and gave him advice. I got to look it up. I'll bring it up tomorrow on the show. But have you guys noticed how salty Jey Uso has been? Do you see that? I mean, you know, I don't know if Jey Uso understands that the WWE universe, a good portion of them are on social media, and you're just broadening, you know, just calling out people. You know, I'm a Jey Uso fan, But I also feel that Jey Uso turned into a cartoon character. We talked about it yesterday because, again, Jey Uso's another guy that, when we started doing the shows, the Usos I don't even think were a thing yet. And the thing is that, in my opinion, and I've said this before, Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso had arguably 5-star matches with the Street Profits in 2022. Those guys could fucking go. And Jey Uso, I believe, to this day, did not want to hurt his brother in any way, but wanted to test and see if he could be a single star. Bully Ray wanted to do that. Other people, they're not disrespecting their brothers or tag team partners, but they want to see if they can, expand and branch out and reinvent. And I do believe this from the bottom of my heart, that Jey Uso is a bona fide main eventer in WWE. If you have a house show and someone is supposed to be on it and, the main event, and they get snowed in or flight is canceled and, hey, Jay, we need you to main event tonight, I don't think anybody in attendance that is live would really complain. Jey Uso has worked hard enough that he has earned the opportunity to main event shows. Absolutely not do I believe he should ever be world champion ever again. But what happened was, in the process of the Yeet thing, he turned into a gimmick, a character. Not just an entrance, but when he's in the ring, it's no longer Jey Uso having 5-star matches like he did with his brother. It's now, let me swivel my hips and let me punch and do it in a way so the fans can go, yeet, 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 yeet. Why do you think they bring his theme back twice? Because he's one of the few people that a theme song is good. Oh, I got such a cool theme song. Let's play it twice. And then you get Stephanie Vaquera and they fucking brutally destroy her Monday. I listened to that theme Monday and all I kept hearing was that first interview she did when she first signed and when she first got to the main roster. And she said, I asked Triple H, please keep my music. Happy anniversary. We got a surprise for you, Stephanie. 1 year on WWE. We're going to change your music. Unnecessary. And I think her music will eventually get changed back. Don't know when, but why even do that? Why? I could see if she totally changed her character, like Natty. Even though I still believe her name is ass backwards. Does anybody agree with me on that? That when you say Natty and Natalia, it's kind of like, don't call me Tony. I'm Anthony. Don't call me Mikey. I'm Michael. Like, Natty sounds like happy, flowers, beautiful sunny day, cake and ice cream. Like, Natty, hey, Natty. It's like, you name your poodle Natty. Natalia is serious. Don't call me fucking Natty. I'm Natalia. Like, Natalia should be the serious name. Like, Natty, I don't know if you all feel that way. To me, it's ass backwards. Like if I walked into a vet and you had like 2 people sitting down and they had sick dogs that were waiting to get checked out, and you see this little French poodle, with pink bows and cleavage sticking out, you're like, oh, what's her name? Oh, it's Natty. Oh, yeah. And then you look over and you got this fucking pit bull. It looks like they had their period and they're pissed the fuck off. And you're like, hey, what's her name? Natalia. Like, that's what it is. But it's the opposite. Natty is the serious one. Natalia is the one with the Anvil's music and the cowboy hat and the cleavage sticking out. Should have been the opposite. Tristan wants to know my thoughts on the Shawshank Redemption movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. Love that movie. Absolutely love that movie. From beginning to end. Just a tremendous movie. Just awesome. That's a movie, when I start watching it. I even said this, I think, on Patreon Thursday. I say it here now. How many of you out there, especially the men tuning in, and listen, it's not about gay or straight, but for them, you'll understand why. For the men tuning in, how many of you out there have ever had a girlfriend or a wife or a significant other that you're watching television and you're changing the channels, and somewhere on USA or TBS or something, it's either the movie Dirty Dancing or Pretty Woman. And you're changing the channels and suddenly you realize that movie is on and your fucking significant other turns around and says, don't you dare change that channel. And they have to watch it. Even if there's only 10 minutes left in the movie, they got to fucking watch it. I swear to God, I have dated at least 3 people in my life, not even including my wife, that at some point, like you're just changing the channels and Pretty Woman. Oh my God, Pretty Woman. So I got to watch it. I got to watch it. I mean, that's kind of like me with the Shawshank Redemption, Spaceballs, Goodfellas. Like, even if it's on regular television, we know that it's all censored out. I still have to watch it. So 905 frequencies, he'd rather have someone clearly steroided out coming out with the name Natty. I just, listen, I respect that. Just for me, Natty just sounds like a nickname. Like, like happy, just bright, like Natalia sounds more serious. Like if you get applying for a driver's license at motor vehicles and you walk in and they say, what's your name, honey? And you say, I'm Natty. Oh, nice to meet you, Natty. Like, on your driver's license, no. All right, everybody calls you Natty, but you're Natalia. Like, we have to put the serious name on you. Like, that's why I feel like the word Natalia. It just feels more serious than Natty. All right. Okay, what's the updated score? So Patriots apparently scored a touchdown. What is the score right now? It's 19-7. So they're up by 12. So we would need the Seahawks to get a touchdown that would make them up by 19. And then the Patriots would score a field goal, which would make the Seahawks only up by 16. I said 17, so 19-7 in the fourth quarter. Okay. Too bad they don't have Tom Brady. Because probably in like 15 minutes, we've been like, yeah, Tom Brady, it's now 24-19 Patriots. So, all right, how long we've gone? We've gone an hour and 35 minutes, so we'll stick around another 25 minutes. Let's get into some more questions. We got a question about 50-year-olds. Scorpio, 1117. Why does WWE have a near 50-year-old man as champ? Because the average viewer is in their 50s. I'm glad you brought that up. Because, listen, I take pride doing this since 1997, opining. I give you opinions. Analyzing. Sometimes I will break news and sometimes I will do research to understand what I'm reading. And, I've been dealing with this since 2008, that you will do research and find something and tell the whole world about it. And your fellow people in the news and the podcasting world, because of who you are, they'll turn around and act like you didn't say it. And then someone else will pick up on it a week later and suddenly they'll get all the attention. I take pride for all of you, my family out there. 2 weeks ago, we told everyone that get ready. Wrestling is going to have some Viagra attached to it with the ratings. I called it ratings Viagra. And because I have a niece that works in the advertising world, with all due respect, that's how I won the argument with Dave Meltzer about Netflix. It's not that I wanted to win the argument. I was hoping to educate Dave a little bit. Dave is one of the greatest writers in wrestling history, whether you like him or not. All right, he is one of the most dedicated, but that doesn't mean he's a master knowledge. He doesn't have all this incredible knowledge in the advertising world. My niece actually works for a big advertising company in New York City and educated me and told me this is how Netflix pitches their product to advertisers and the methodology and the analytics and this and that. So when Dave many months ago was going to put out a blockbuster story to basically say that Netflix is putting out bullshit numbers, you guys may remember I took Clara from Where's the Beef? And I said, where's the skew? He was accusing Netflix of skewing numbers, and he called me out on it. And yeah, I was kind of like Stu Hart. Yeah, yeah. You know, like you ever see Wrestling with Shadows? When Stu Hart is about to stretch at someone and he's kind of like drooling and he's like, yeah, I'm going to fuck this guy up. Like I was drooling and I was like, okay, Dave, you want to challenge me? No problem. I'll tell you what I know. And by the end of the conversation on X, I realized Dave don't want to know the truth. He was mad that I actually had more knowledge than him and he just cut off the conversation. Cut it off. So I was like, okay, that is someone that is not necessarily looking for the truth unless they find the truth. If someone finds the truth before them, they don't want to hear it. They got to find the truth. So a little over 2 weeks ago, I get DM'd about the DASH study by ARF, not ALF. Not ALF, ARF, the DASH study. And they're analyzing demos. And I said, you guys better start putting respect on the 55 to 64 demographic, that it's much bigger than people perceive. And that is because WrestleNomics won't tell you this. Dave Meltzer won't tell you this. Wade Keller is busy trying to figure out what ass he could get from someone. They won't tell you that more 50-year-olds, the trend is more 50-year-olds watch cable television than 18 to 34. Or I should rephrase that. More 18 to 34-year-olds watch streaming than 50-year-olds. The point is the cable TV industry, the Verizon Fios, the Spectrums, the regular cable TV packages, you're finding more and more of it moving to 50 and over because young people stream. Young people go on Netflix. Young people go on X, go on YouTube, watch their streaming to Philo and shit like that. And the thing is, for networks like TBS and USA and TNT, AMC, you remember 3 weeks ago, we brought up AMC's TV lineup? Have you seen anyone bring that up? No, because they're waiting for someone else who they like in the wrestling news world to put that out there, and then they'll talk about it. So when someone brought to me, hey, look at this DASH study, I was like, holy shit. They're doing all this research about older demos, and they're trying to include as many streaming viewers as possible. No disrespect, but Meltzer, WrestleNomics, Keller, and everybody else that says the old system, they want the old rating system based on Nielsen boxes that were in tens of thousands of homes. What Netflix is trying to do in 2026 is they're trying to analyze millions of homes. They want to include streaming numbers, not just Nielsen boxes. So while your wrestling friends are trying to push the old system on you, Nielsen is like, hey, we want to do the new system, but it takes time. So when SmackDown was under 1 million viewers 3 weeks in a row, the only people that were extremely concerned were the elitists out there that don't like WWE and for people that are obsessed with ratings. I do believe that somebody in wrestling that is a diehard AEW fan, the night that AEW tops Raw or SmackDown head-to-head or something like that, they're going to tattoo it on their testicles. One ball is going to say the AEW rating and the other ball is going to say the WWE rating. Usually somebody has one smaller ball than the other. You're going to see them on their ass cheeks do it. And they're literally going to do a Rick Rude in the mirror, and they're going to flex their ass, and they're going to say, look, AEW beat WWE. Someone's going to do it. But the thing is, as you see that more 50-year-olds watch cable television, because 18 to 34-year-olds are not going to spend $300 a month for a basic cable package with 100 channels, 150 channels. Somebody who's 50 and over will. So when you saw this report, I go to my niece. Hey, could you add anything about this? And that's how she's telling me, yeah. A lot of the cable TV industry is targeting more to 50-year-olds because they're the ones that are more inclined to watch cable television compared to 18 and 34-year-olds who watch streaming. So when you start looking at the study and you see in these graphs, I said, holy shit, get ready, everyone. You're going to see Viagra hit wrestling ratings. What happens? Collision is up 75%. SmackDown, the rumored number might be 1.5, 1.6 million this past Friday. It was just 900,000. How does it go up 700,000? Why? Because Liv Morgan showed up? So you're seeing the ratings Viagra hit. And when people are like, well, what about AMC? Well, yeah, because AMC is already targeting 60-year-olds. The average viewer on AMC is 60 years old. So when TNA is on AMC, you say to yourself, okay, why there? And then you find out, well, the average viewer is 60. And have you seen that AEW's 55 and over demo has exploded? Some people like it's insane, the numbers now. It's not insane. The only reason why it looks like a giant jolt is because Nielsen is slowly adapting to this new system. And the 35-year-old wrestling fans from 20 years ago that are dedicated, like me and a lot of you out there, are now 55. So you're getting more of the loyal fans that have stuck around for 20 years that are now in the new demo, the next demo. And you're getting less young fans because their option is streaming. That's why you get your BJ Bethels that says 500,000 on Max, and you get a whole bunch of little virgins that believe it because they think, oh, yeah, I stream also. So, yeah, of course I would watch Max over TBS or TNT. And some people probably legitimately feel that way. But I take pride 2 weeks ago telling everyone, get ready, ratings Viagra. Now you see what's happening because of it. The only reason why TNA didn't benefit from it much is because AMC is already in the 60-year-old. Their target is already that demo. And this stash study finished a while ago, didn't just finish now. And contrary to what some people make you think in wrestling, believe me when I tell you, you didn't suddenly get a shitload of 50-year-olds and up tune into Dynamite and say, oh my God, I want to see Mina Shirakawa flash her tits and make out with a woman. Oh my God, Tony Storm doing what she... No, 50-year-olds are that aroused, they would go watch Pornhub. You know, they didn't suddenly tune in at the same time on AEW. What changed in the last couple of weeks? Like suddenly 50-year-olds are all aroused over MJF. Oh my God, look at Ospreay's. Look at Fletcher's abs. Oh my God, like that guy from WWE is there, the 50-year-old himself, no, there was no dramatic thing. No, it's just that the methodology, they're starting to put it all together. And that's why the advertising industry, that's why WWE, that's why AEW, and that's why the real business world never were concerned about the lowered numbers with ratings. When Tony Khan kept telling everyone, in defense, we got some of our best viewership so far, because they know that this was a work in progress. USA Network, satisfied with the numbers. How could you be satisfied? It's only got 900,000 viewers. How could you be satisfied with Collision doing Rampage-like numbers? Because they understood that this system needed to have changes. The thing was that unlike the wrestling news sites, they were all holding out for Nielsen to figure it out. Everybody else wanted to go back to the old system. And the reason why that's true is because how many people, when you look at an AEW rating, they say doesn't include max numbers, or this is based on the new system that was adapted 5 months ago. There's always that, yeah, but, instead of just giving you the number. Now, if the numbers stay this way, suddenly you won't see that anymore. You'll still see the max thing because they want you to think that, oh my God, AEW is getting 2 million viewers. And remember this, my friends, for everybody that's into ratings. When Dave Meltzer and a few people said 2 weeks ago that Dynamite may have had one of the biggest ratings in their history, and I think even somebody said top 3, I ask you this, why didn't Warner Brothers Discovery issue a simple little 2-paragraph press release that says, All Elite Wrestling, airing Wednesdays from 8 to 10 p.m., just scored its third highest viewership in its history, or one of the highest viewerships since it launched in whatever year it was. How come there's no press release? if it was one of the biggest, even top 3 most viewed episodes in their history, why wasn't there a press release? Why was it ignored? So again, when you see people putting that shit out there, take a step back and say, why isn't the real world talking about this? When everybody was saying, oh my God, in WWE's history, SmackDown was never under 1 million viewers 3 weeks in a row. How come the regular TV industry wasn't talking about it? So remember what I told you guys 2.5 weeks ago. Some nights during the week, there's only 3 or 4 shows for the entire night that have over 1 million viewers. Prime time, obviously. I'm not talking about all day long. You look at prime time, only 3 or 4 shows sometimes top 1 million viewers. So things have changed. But, that's why Scorpio, we talk about it here. And the reason why I got to talk so long about it is because no one else is bringing this up. And look at that. You got people charging you money to hear them talk about analytics, and yet this went right over their head. Now they're talking about it. But 2 weeks ago, that article came out. Nobody bothered to look up the Dash study. Nobody. You ask our channel members here on YouTube. When I did the channel version 2 weeks ago, I put some of the graphs up. And people could see, oh my God, look at this 55 to 64 demo. Trust me. Here, how they say like 70 is the new 50, or 50 is the new 30? 55 to 64 is the new 18 to 34. It's not that simple, but you're going to see more and more people talking about 50 and over. And that's why you have a 50-year-old champion. Because when you actually look at the average viewer for a wrestling show, CW might be the youngest audience. And the funny thing is, we talked about it yesterday. I know I'm going to cause a little controversy here, but when NXT launched on CW, I wanted to see the reaction by non-wrestling fans. Because it's very interesting to ask people today who don't watch wrestling their thoughts on WWE Unreal. And Joey was talking about family members of his that don't watch wrestling, that watched Unreal, and explain why they liked it. And that's obviously who WWE was targeting originally. But when CW first launched NXT, I looked on social media, and a lot of you know what I'm about to say. And I wanted to see what was the reaction. And what I did was I looked on X, I looked on Facebook, and I typed in NXT debut CW, and I looked for media reaction. And if you go on X, you select media, and you see what everybody and their mother, because look, 50 million people now fucking have to put themselves on video. Everybody's got to do a review. Everybody's got to do a TikTok video. Everybody's got to say something. Everybody's got a reaction. So when I looked, I noticed the pattern almost immediately. I'm not saying this is the only people, but what I noticed was over and over and over again, non-wrestling fans, I saw that the average person watching that was commenting on video was in their mid to upper 20s, and most of the time they were black. And almost every time their reaction wasn't Braun Breaker or Trick Williams or anybody like that. Their reaction on average was, woohoo, look at that ass. Oh, Jada Parker. Oh, look at that ass. NXT, look at this wrestling. We got hotties. Oh, look. Oh, hoo-hoo. Think I'm kidding? Go look on X. Just go back and type the debut, NXT CW, click media, and ignore all the wrestling people and just look at reaction, or just type reaction. Almost 3/4 of the time, you'll see somebody who is black in their mid to upper 20s, and all they're talking about is ass. All talking about the ass. Woohoo! Look at that. And if you go back and you look at CW, when they first were advertising NXT, remember the graphics? Look at the people who they featured. Julia wasn't up there. Seven of a Care I don't think was up there either. They had, your Jada Parkers, your Lola Levi. I don't know if they had Nikita Lyons then, but you could see that they were definitely looking for a certain demo. NXT, I think, is probably the youngest demo right now because of CW. CW is trying to lower their audience. It's a little weird before NXT started on CW, I think the average viewer on CW was in their late 30s. And yet, when you watch the programming on CW, a lot of those shows seem to be targeting teens and 20-something-year-olds. So it would be, a little strange to like picture like 40 and 50-year-olds like watching these shows that are, that are targeting like a teenage audience. It's like, it's like not creepy. I mean, it's not illegal or anything, but, when you got all these like shows targeting young people, and then you see the average viewers 40, 50 years old, that's what it is. But, look around wrestling. All right. So we have the Seahawks winning 28-7. Now it's going to be 29-7. So it's going to end up being more than 17, but I did say blowout. Seahawks with a blowout. So, listen, I could care less about either team. I know there's a lot of Seattle fans out there, so congrats to you. It looks like that the Seahawks will win this. And hopefully next year, my Giants do a little better, man. I heard the quarterback now says that, it's definitely possible to have a WWE future after his football career is over. You have any idea how many football players have said that over the years? Who is that guy? Some of you remember. Who is the guy? And I have to say this because it narrows it down by a lot of people. Who is the black defensive guy? That I don't remember what team he was on, but he was being interviewed on Fox, maybe even a Super Bowl one year, and he cut a promo, and some people like put somehow Mean Gene Okerlund next to him, and this guy was an amazing promo cutter. Like, this motherfucker's got to go to WWE. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Who was the guy? He was, oh man, it's right on the tip of my tongue too, but it's a defensive player. I'm pretty sure he's a defensive player, and he cut a promo. It was a female commentator, and she interviewed him, and he fucking cut a promo on the field, and everybody's like, oh my God, he's got to go to WWE. Someone will figure it out. Someone's going to probably Google it and let me know. It's almost like something Deshaun. No, I can't remember the name, but someone will figure it out. So, all right, we start bringing this home. We start. Richard Sherman. Did I say Showman or something? Yeah, okay, that's it. Richard Sherman, that's it. Matthew, I think you were right. Richard Sherman. That guy, I was convinced, got to have a wrestling career in some way. Didn't happen. 29-7 Seahawks, so. All right. So S2 Ultra 22 says he's new to the rating system, so he's not understanding it so far. Can I explain it? Hopefully I just did. To give you literally the under 1 minute explanation, back in the day, Nielsen would give boxes out. Select few people, tens of thousands. Now we have, how many tens of millions live in the United States? Tens of thousands of boxes. And you agree in return that Nielsen can monitor what you watch on a daily basis. With that old system, back in the 90s and 2000s, you have wrestling fans who are teenagers, 20-something-year-olds, and now those same teenagers are now in their mid-30s to 50s. And, that's if they kept the Nielsen box for 20 years. Cornette recently said that Nielsen offered him a box, and he said no. So Nielsen, and the best way I could describe it is politics. When Trump was running against Biden, and then it became Kamala Harris. Whenever you watch the poll on TV that Kamala is up by 6, or Trump is up by 5, or whatever it was, if you looked in little fine print, it would say total voters 1,000. Wait, why would CNN put up a poll that Kamala Harris is up by 6, and then you look in the fine print, only 500 people were polled? Because when you do a poll in politics, you don't poll millions of people. You take a group, a portion. And the idea is that is on a much tinier scale what is likely the landscape across the United States. That's really what it comes down to. Now, if you're really slick, you could go to certain areas of the country that is very heavily Democratic or heavily Republican, do a poll there, and then say, oh, yeah, no, Trump is up by 31. Oh, of course, you went into it. Go to Minnesota right now. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you could get an idea of what. So the idea is you go to an area where it's pretty balanced, Republican and Democrat, and you do a poll with 1,000 people, and that gives you an idea as far as what the country is going. Same thing with Nielsen. Nielsen, you think there's truly only 900,000 people watching SmackDown? 600,000 people watching Dynamite? It is a lot more than that. But they can't poll 30 million people or 10 million people watching TV on a particular night. You know, they could only poll based on, you know, the boxes. You ever ask yourself, how do they find out that the Super Bowl had 50 million viewers? Right? Well, when you're talking about regular television can be analyzed a little bit differently. You know, because especially in the old system before, you know, regular television, CBS, NBC, later on Fox, ABC, you know, you can monitor all the TVs tuning in that night. That's why when you look back at old TV, oh, the final episode of MASH did this, or the final episode of Cheers did this. Saturday night's main event where Andre beat Hogan did 26 million viewers. You know, the match itself did 30 million, you know, because you can see everybody because of the platform it was on. What Nielsen is doing now is Nielsen is trying to include streaming. They're trying to include the digital aspect. And now you go from tens of thousands of Nielsen boxes to millions of people watching. And it gives you a better idea. It's still a fragment of the overall viewership. But the reason why people go with it and stay with it is because when you see a decline and you use the same system, then you could turn around and say, okay, all right, something's up now. You know, like, see on YouTube, right now we have 315 people who are live. All right, in the end, 3,000 people may watch. But also people will tune in on the audio side. People will download the video side of it. People on Patreon, people here, people there. So in the end, it might be 10, 12,000 people that checked out the show. But you could only analyze the areas where there are statistics available. So that's pretty much what's going on. They're trying to broaden and get a better idea. That's why advertisers were never concerned. That's why companies were never concerned. That's why AEW and WWE management was never concerned. The only people that are concerned are obsessed wrestling fans. Just being honest. Just Google search about ratings, and you will see the majority of the people that are making a big deal about it are wrestling. Why is that? Because they are absolutely petrified that their favorite programming could one day be canceled because of low viewership. You think Warner Brothers Discovery got rid of Rampage because, it was just we had too much wrestling? You know, they could have simply turned around and said to Tony Khan, listen, you know, we want to use primetime Friday night for something else. So, you know, we'll give you Tuesday at 1 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, you could have easily put it on a different night, different time, but they just canceled it entirely because they just felt, we just feel it's too much wrestling and the ratings are not very good. So let's focus. We just want to have two shows. If you notice, what's up with Battle of the Belts? Real? Not saying that it's gone, but, you know, hey, you know, nobody buzzes about Battle of the Belts like they used to. It's all about ratings at the end of the day. Trust me, if it was doing kick-ass ratings, you do not get rid of something, because better ratings means better advertising and better advertising rates and better income, and, you know, just everything is better across the board. It's very rare that you see a TV show getting excellent ratings getting canceled, unless it's because of pay disputes or contract issues. You know, usually if you're doing a good job, you know, you usually ride with that. So, sounds of the, I don't know what. It's cut off. You know, sounds, please don't super chat this, but I would like to acknowledge you the correct way. Oh, never mind. I see it. Sounds of the S-Town 1, tuning in from Southeast London. I thank you very much, my friend. I absolutely love everybody who tunes in, whether you're 2 blocks away from me or 2,000 miles away from me. But going back to even the Minority Report days from 25 years ago, we always had a little extra soft spot for everybody who would tune in internationally, especially live, because we know the time zone differences. And sometimes you get people to tune in and it's like, hey, it's 5:30 in the morning where I'm at. I just wanted to just shout you out and just say that. And I would always joke, even 20 years ago, I would say like you won't even get me to watch porn at 5:30 in the morning. Like the only reason why I'd be up at 5:30 in the morning is to take a piss or I'm thirsty. You're like to tune into a show, at different hours, that is, just a little extra special. So I thank you very much. I really do. And look at this. Austin Nance says it's 29-13. Motherfuckers are going to win by 16. And I said 17. I got to listen back to last week at the score because I know we did a score. I got to listen back to the score next week. I did see the Seth Rollins MJF photo shoot. This is my honest reaction, Raul. And I'm not saying this to be a softie about it. Wrestlers truly look out for their fellow wrestlers. All right. You don't see like you used to Ospreay and Seth Rollins fighting online. Baron Corbin and Ospreay. This person, like there'll always be that asshole, or there'll always be that one person who overspeaks. And listen, I'm a big supporter of Ricochet. If you look at my social media, over a year ago, I predicted we would get this big-time troll heel Ricochet. Just everything I described, he ended up doing. Absolutely, I am a fan of Ricochet. But where he got it wrong about the legacy thing was including other people's names. And I hope by now all of you saw Sami Zayn's Mike Tyson post. And that's pretty much his answer to Ricochet by saying, yeah, shut the fuck up. Speak for yourself. Don't speak on anyone else. Let me put it this way. When you have to include others to defend your argument's weak. You want a good example of it? How many times do you see someone in AEW do this? Because WWE, they're not allowed for the most part. But how many times do you see a wrestler that's in AEW that will put over AEW but throw a shot at WWE at the same time? Back when we were podcasting 20 years ago, we would always rip the other shows. In Your Heads, even Meltzer and others, we would rip them all, make fun of them all. And then someone had reached out and said, DT, have people tune into you, not because they suck, but because you're good. And the day that we stopped calling them retards and all this other shit, we started to become the biggest show online because we wanted people to tune into us, not because they're bad, but because we're good. And that I realized was an insecurity of mine. Tune into me because they suck, but not focusing on why I'm good. And that's the thing that people do. And when Ricochet says that WWE hurt his legacy and didn't let him do it, that's fine. If that's how you feel, absolutely respect it. But when you start to say, well, Shinsuke and this person and this person, don't speak for them. Don't try to back up your argument by putting other names out there, because guess what? Even if that were true, WWE could fuck with the remaining part of their career or run just to stick it a little bit, and, people, speak for yourself. Don't speak for others. And that's where Ricochet got it wrong. And that's where a lot of people get it wrong. So my point is, most people these days support their fellow wrestler. Seth wants to see MJF and other wrestlers there make crazy money. A lot of the women's wrestlers around absolutely want to see everybody succeed. You do have those few people that have to make AEW seem like the greatest thing in the world, and Tony Khan should get the Nobel Peace Prize, and, this and that. People will go over the top. Sasha Banks always did that. It's not just, oh, Tony Khan is the greatest promoter that I ever had, and he's the awesome guy, and this and that. Yeah, tickles Tony Khan a little bit. I'm sure Tony Khan somewhere is giggling and has a little blush on his face. But, back in the day, Sasha Banks used to do that about Vince. Go back and look. And now when you hear about the rumors of Vince, I'm not saying that Vince and Sasha Banks ever did anything, but for a fact, the way Sasha would just, thank you, Daddy. I guarantee you, Vince in his bathroom, in his Stamford, Connecticut condo, with no one else around, might have been a little bit turned on about that. That's right. I'm your daddy, Sasha. That's right. You just don't know it yet. Yeah. Like, I do think there is a little bit of a mind game with that. Some people, I love AEW. Hashtag Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes is a huge supporter of AEW, which is beautiful. But, you see sometimes it is over the top, like, okay, all right, we get it. WWE isn't, that evil. I'll never go back there. I will never finish my career there. Okay, that's fine. Just put over who's good, which is your, you don't have to mention the others. And that's Seth Rollins, MJF. They want to see each other make money. They want to see each other succeed. There'll always be that friendly competition. MJF doesn't want to beat the shit out of CM Punk. But MJF is world champion. And CM Punk is world champion. So, yeah, I want to kick his ass, just for shits and giggles. And there's no DM where CM Punk says to Maxwell, WTF, question mark? Like, keep my name out of your mouth. No, this is the wrestling world. And you kind of do that a little bit. Back in the day, there would be some friendly challenges by the Elite or Kenny Omega and fucking the New Day and stuff like that. 95% of the wrestling world support each other. And that's a good thing. That is a very good thing. You'll always have those few that will, take it a little bit too far. And there's people out there that do it. I don't want to name names, or you can figure them out. Dax, good example of that. Tristan says Cocoa Puffs or Cookie Crisp. I haven't had either in probably 20 plus years. But if I had to choose one, by far, it's Cookie Crisp. Because I always tried to convince myself that I was really having a whole box of chocolate chip cookies. Cocoa Puffs. There's so many corn cereals out there that are round with a chocolate. Like, I'm sure at some point there was something called Nuggets. Like, you can make Cocoa Puffs, anybody can. Cookie Crisp, it was good, but the only thing that sucked about Cookie Crisp, from what I remember, is that the cereal was hollow. And if you left it in milk for too long, the milk would penetrate it and it would get soggy. And then you would be left with like these bits of chocolate and soggy cereal. And that's one thing, soggy cereal. And as I get older, saggy tits. Soggy cereal and saggy tits. I don't like either one. So I'm starting to get saggy tits. And we're starting to get a little late here. We went a little over time. We'll go another 15 minutes. Yes, the Sasha baby picture that I always showed. There's also a video. If you guys want to look it up, there's a video that Sasha Banks put out years ago and at Vince with it. It is a little baby crying. And the little baby, all of a sudden, somebody puts a bunch of money in front of the baby. And the baby starts smiling and giggling. And she at Vince McMahon with it. And you look at it, you could just picture it, that Sasha's crying and complaining. And here's Vince. Here's a boatload of money. And Sasha's like, yeah. Go look it up. I mean, I have them. I don't have them readily available, but there's someone has it somewhere out there. She would fuck with Vince. Just most people never really paid attention to it. But somewhere Vince was into that, man. How could you not? You got a sexy woman like that calling you daddy, and you're a little bit of a kinky pervert. I don't believe that she ever did anything with Vince. I want to make that clear. I don't think Vince ever hit on her. That doesn't mean that Vince didn't fucking fantasize about it. You have a fucking sexy hot woman calling you daddy, and you don't have to fucking OnlyFans her money. You know, it's, trust me, I did somewhere Vince was very, very happy. And she knew what she was doing. I didn't even open my Sprite. Now it's hot. I can't open it. This is the only one I have. I still got this Dontony soda. It's expired for like 6 years. I always wanted to open up and drink it. So, and one day we will drink this. These are from 1997, Alka-Seltzer plus nighttime. Because I'm big drinking Alka-Seltzer nighttime. These expired in May of 1997. You know what's funny? Back in the day when they had the expirations, they didn't tell you the day of the month. They just said May of 1997. So was it May 1st or May 30th? Or wait, 30 days in September, April, June, 31st. Don't ask me why I have that on my desk. So, my favorite cereal, like if I wasn't so fat and I could have like a box of cereal right now, even just eating out of the box, my number one choice would probably be peanut butter Captain Crunch. That probably would be my number one favorite. Back in the day, I was obsessed with grape nuts, with raisins, but for some reason, you'd always get like pieces stuck between your teeth, and it always got stuck in the back, and you could never like get it out. You could use fucking floss all night long. You could use your tongue to try, and it would just irritate everything. I gave up on grape nuts. Grape nuts, I don't know why I liked it at that time, but I used to eat a box of it. And my friends used to be like, oh my God, you're going to be shitting all night long. It never affected me. Never affected me. So, yeah, some people commented about the Sasha stuff. I'm telling you, go look it up. You'll be amazed. So, all right, we're going to start bringing this home. So, final call for questions. Last call. You know what's cereal I like now? Believe it or not, what's that low sugary cereal that every podcaster fucking plugs? I turned it down. I mean, I buy the cereal and I'm an idiot because I probably could have just used my own promo code and got discounts on it. What's that cereal that every wrestling podcaster promotes? That has like low sugar, very low carbs. Magic Spoon. Thank you. Everybody promotes Magic Spoon, Blue Chew, fucking shaving stuff and everything. And nah, you know, my shows are sponsored by all of you. And I'm not just saying that, you know, these shows are brought to by all of you. I don't want to put a sponsor on here unless I absolutely like them. And I think a lot of you would like them as well. You know, I would be insulted to give you a promo code for Blue Chew. Because what am I saying? You can't get it. You can't get it up. Say it nicely. Like, you know, like Magic Spoon, it's okay. I mean, it's not bad. How many of you out there have ate Magic Spoon in the middle of the night and you add like packets of sugar to it? I've done that. I'm not kidding. I've done that. I've poured a bowl of Magic Spoon in the middle of the night. I'm a little hungry. And then I would like have a spoon. I'd be like, it's missing something. And I would get like 2 or 3 packets of sugar and just throw it on top. Like, yeah, that's more like it. So, yeah, I did see last night Lola Vice and Misty Iguana becoming mixed tag champs. Chelsea Green out with a ankle sprain. It's pretty interesting that she gets an injury and you have to sub somebody for her and drop the titles like this. And Dominic Mysterio, he just disappears for a month and a half and then just magically comes back. I know, obviously, Ethan Page and Chelsea Green were advertised to have a tag match, but you could have easily done something else. You know, that tells me that Ethan Page and Chelsea Green were probably going to lose the tag belts anyway. But, you know, Lola Vice, man, she's done such an awesome job. I mean, a year from now, she'll be on the main roster. I don't even think there's a question. You know, even though she's doing AAA and still doing the small NXT house shows and the weekly TV, she is still adding seasoning and just sharpening her skills that much more. When she gets promoted to that main roster, man, she's going right to the top. See what's happening with Trick Williams right now? It's nothing against Carmelo Hayes, but anybody who watched NXT on a regular basis, you'll agree with me. There was a time where Carmelo Hayes was here, Trick Williams was here. And you were like, okay, Carmelo Hayes, he is him. He will be a big star in the main roster. I'm not saying he won't be a big star, but there was one point where it went like this. And then we were like, holy shit, when Trick Williams gets to that main roster. You know, it's not just he reminds you of Booker T a little bit with his height and his physique, but you look at, you know, how good of a person he is and this, you know, the football background and just the charisma and the fucking theme song and everything about it. I mean, just remember the day that WWE changes his song. Wouldn't it feel like criminal if you change that song? Like, that sounds like a song like they ain't changing that shit for fucking years. They're putting him right in there. Teasing Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, and others. That's it. He's on that. He is him. It really is. That guy's got it. I'm not saying that Lola Vice will be on that level as far as the women's side of things go, but when they finally promote her to Raw or SmackDown, she will go right to the top. Right to the top. Let me tell you something. I'll say this in closing. I know I mentioned it last week, but probably the thing I liked the most about Royal Rumble last week was how much people were into Obafemi, Trick Williams' theme, Javon Evans, and even to an extent Lash Legend, even though she was playing a big-time heel. Lash Legend was very strategic on who she was fucking around with. That blew away that narrative that Saudi fans are racist and this and that, which is just ridiculous. You know, I hate always bringing race into someone who's getting, you know, jeers from fans. There are so many reasons why it happens. And it's such a cop-out to always immediately go to race. And to see that last week, you know, it wasn't my favor as far as the night goes, the wrestling, there were moments, but I'm saying, like, that's one thing that I'll probably remember. Like, okay, that argument that people want to make, yeah, flush that down the toilet, that's done. But Trick Williams' theme, you just feel it. Like, you just know everything about his presentation is almost perfect. Don't fuck with it, man. You know, and plus him being a little bit of a prima donna, getting his shoes, you know, waxed and his shoes shined and wearing like the faux mink coat and all that stuff, that just makes him more into a pimp, man. Just makes him more into a pimp. Like, they know that they got superstar on his hands. Everybody talks about Braun Breaker and to an extent Jacob Fatu. Put Trick Williams all the way at the top of that list also. So, all right. Yeah. Chad Gable getting booed in Mexico. Understand, it's nothing against Chad Gable, but the fans know that this is Ludwig Kaiser under that mask. And Ludwig Kaiser was forced into the situation because of Chad Gable's injury. And Ludwig Kaiser took the ball and fucking ran with it. And, you know, look, I'm convinced Ludwig Kaiser knew how to speak Spanish already. You know, he's dating someone who's Spanish, and she speaks very fluent Spanish. So I don't think he's like, man, I want that piece of ass. I better learn Spanish so I can know how to talk to her. No, I think he already knew Spanish to an extent. Maybe it wasn't, you know, very flowing, but you could see that he was given this opportunity and put everything into it. And one thing about fans in Mexico, they will acknowledge big-time hard work. And it doesn't mean that Chad Gable didn't work his ass off, because Chad Gable was getting cheered before his injury. It's just that they don't want Chad Gable to come back, reclaim what he had before and hurt Ludwig Kaiser in the process. That's why Chad Gable is getting jeered right now. And what's so great about it, it's the same thing with Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio is getting more cheers in the United States now, obviously, and it's been happening for a while. But, you know, there was some points where Los Gringos Locos were immensely over in Mexico, and in the United States, it was the opposite. I'm talking about Dominic. I'm not talking about the original with Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr. So you look at Kaiser. Kaiser is cheered in Mexico and booed in the States. Or we should say outside of Mexico. But now Chad Gable, he is booed in Mexico and he'll get cheered in the United States. That's how they're presenting the storyline. If you look the way it's being presented outside of Mexico, Chad Gable is the babyface El Grande Americano. And I'm convinced they will do mask versus mask at WrestleMania. So, and you know what sucks about that? Somebody's going to have to lose that gimmick. And here's my question to all of you, and I will bring it up again tomorrow, so I have it on tomorrow's synopsis. I ask you this. Who should lose the mask? And it's not just Mexico, but if you do mask versus mask match at WrestleMania, who should lose the mask? You know what my answer is? Chad Gable. Listen, I was so into what Chad Gable was doing, somebody at the Performance Center gifted me El Grande Americano mask. That is a real El Grande Americano, the original El Grande Americano. So I don't need to defend my fandomhood of it. I love the gimmick. But I also think Chad Gable getting a singles title as Chad Gable is something that fans want. And I think if Chad Gable loses the mask at Mania, that could lead to Chad Gable getting a singles babyface run, which ultimately leads to a title. I think Ludwig Kaiser is better with the mask on because you take the mask off and his character is so limited. He just goes, ladies and gentlemen. He can't even do Gunther. He's not even with Gunther anymore. Like, it's almost like, oh my God, I hope they don't give him the Giovanni Vinci treatment. You know, like suddenly he comes out of a German car. Kaiser. Like, you know, Giovanni, when he lost Vinci, he lost the first name. You know, Viva Vendi Vinci. Viva Vendi Vinci. And it's like, sayonara. By the way, this past week was the anniversary of Giovanni Vinci being cut. How's the last 12 months been good for Giovanni Vinci? What's he doing? Really? Something to think about. So I think you keep Kaiser under the mask. That guy's doing a fucking phenomenal job, man. And there's just something about Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate trying to be Spanish. You know, they do what we always did on the shows. You just deepen your voice and still talk English and you think you're Spanish. You hear them cutting promos during the commercial breaks. Dragon Lee, big embarrassment to Mexico. And it's like, what is that? Like you're talking like somebody transitioning to a man. It's like, what are you trying to do? Is that, that's your impersonation of somebody Mexican? They're not even talking in Spanish when they do that. Or they'll use a phrase, you know, hola, you know, like Viva de Mexico. They don't even use, they don't talk fluid. That's what makes it so funny. And they're over. So, all right. I'm out of here. I want to thank everyone for a fun little evening. Do we have a final score in the Super Bowl? Do we have a final score? So, I got to check out last week's score prediction. Because I think I came within 1 point of my prediction. I said Seahawks by 17. What's the final score? Someone type 29-13. So I said 17, blowout. They won by 16. Now I got to listen to last week's score. And trust me, if I had, listen, whatever my score was, it was by 17. I know I didn't say 17-0. And I know I definitely didn't say like 24-7. I know it was a different number, but I got to listen back. So, hey, we just get lucky with predictions. Stick with me, you'll make some money, right? So everyone, much love. I thank you very much for sharing a little bit of your time with me. Like I said, whether you're live or in the archive, it is very much appreciated. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry for waiting until the end. I will definitely reach out to him because he is a patron in addition to a channel member on YouTube. But congrats to Ronnie C. I don't know if he's live right now, but Ronnie, you won the predictions contest for the Royal Rumble on YouTube. It was it Tommy D? I think one on Patreon, and Ronnie C one on YouTube. I think that's the winner. We announced Patreon on Thursday, but Ronnie, if you hear this, I will reach out to you, obviously. But yeah, you won the predictions contest on YouTube, so I owe you a 50 spot. So just send me a DM. Let me know how you want it. PayPal, gift card, Amazon, WWE, AEW, Pro Wrestling Tees, whatever it is. It's your choice. And just the schedule for this week, I'll be live Monday night right after Raw on our Discord channel, DTKCDiscord.com. So we'll talk Raw, get into some news and some other stuff. Tuesday, sometime in the afternoon, early evening, after I get the channel members' version of Raw's show, Monday night show online for everybody on YouTube, I will put up the Forbidden Door episode. I don't know if we'll have it on the regular YouTube channel because it's a 4-hour stream. And it's just, there's no video. So you just be looking at one fucking thumbnail for 4 hours. And I get that's what Cornette does and everything, but that might be much. So it'll probably just be available on all audio platforms. But, and then Wednesday, we have Wednesday Night Dynamite. And then we'll drop the history show on Friday once again. And then we're right back to here on YouTube for the sit down on Sunday. So congrats once again to the Seahawks. And I'm going to check out the feedback of Bad Bunny's performance. I'm not going to watch it, and I'm not going to watch this Great American thing because I don't even know why that concert happened, with all due respect. I mean, I get it. You have New Year's Eve. You'll have it simulcasted in California, New York, and all different areas. But, you know, the Super Bowl, everybody's watching one thing. I know WWE back in the day did their halftime thing, which was cool. But it almost felt like this Great American concert was to spite the NFL's halftime show with Bad Bunny. And I just personally thought that was not necessary. In my opinion, I'm just being honest. Turning Point USA did it. I don't know if that was necessary. I don't know if that was necessary because to me, you know, look, I support America. I want to see us do better, period. But the way I perceived it, it just felt like, all right, you're doing this to try to offset Bad Bunny. It'll be pretty fucking hilarious if Bad Bunny was not political. Because I said that earlier in the show. My prediction is Bad Bunny just did his performance, did his thing, did not create any controversy, and people would be like, motherfucker. I'm telling you, I get that vibe that that's what we're going to get. And listen, we did this show live when the Super Bowl first started, so there's no way for me to know. But I'm going to go see what the feedback was and see if it was controversial. But if I'm Bad Bunny, don't feed it. Just do your thing. And sometimes the less you say says even more. So be well, everybody. Much love. If you're around tomorrow night, right after Raw, stop by our Discord, DTKCDiscord.com, and we'll talk live. And we'll have another good one. So be well, everybody. I'll catch you on the next one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Dontony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.